I want to thank everyone for coming together at noon today for some major announcements the city is going to be making. We had mentioned that we are looking at issuing a disaster proclamation yesterday. We said we'd do it by noon. We also were going to talk about city employees of 8,500 and whether they need to come to work. And then we have something we want to talk about regarding the bus. So number one, I have signed a disaster proclamation that allows the city to take extraordinary powers if need be in order to protect the public during this incoming storm. And I want to announce that to all of you. We have copies that we'll be handing out to you. Secondly, we are going to be asking our non-essential workers not to come into work tomorrow. That's approximately 8,500 folks. We do not want them on the road during the storm's arrival, which we expect to start to feel the impacts at 6 in the morning. With strong winds starting from 10 to about 2 and right in the middle of the day. We want to make sure everyone is at home and being safe. So what does that mean? The only workers who need to report that are city and county workers are disaster response workers. Those folks know who they are. Everyone else is to stay home, take care of each other, be safe, take care of their neighbors, and show the true aloha spirit that we like to talk about so much. Finally, when we announced that we were going to be discontinuing regular bus service at midnight and only having the emergency buses running from 10 until an hour before the impact of the storm to our emergency shelters, we heard particularly from the visitor industry in Waikiki. There are about 94, almost 95,000 visitors on this island, of which the bulk of them are in Waikiki. It's the height of the tourist season. It is full. Every room is taken in Waikiki. And of course, those visitors need to be taken care of by the hardworking folks on this island who live in places on the Ewa Plain, Waipahu, Kalihi, and other areas around the island. So we've modified our announcement regarding discontinuing bus service. Our express buses, and Mike Formby is going to talk about what those are, but our express buses will operate tomorrow morning from 4:30 in the morning to about 7 in the morning to get folks into Waikiki to help operate and make sure things run smoothly. And then that service is going to stop, and the bus drivers will return to the bus barns to be safe during the hard part of the storm. But that's to make sure people are in Waikiki, to take care of those visitors in Waikiki. And once the storm passes, which we expect 2 or 3 in the afternoon, we'll start rolling out our bus service again in the regular way. Our express buses will be operating so the hard workers in Waikiki can get back home. We're doing this to accommodate our visitor industry. We're really asking the workers to use their own discretion. If it does not look safe to them, and these buses run all around the island, they should make their own decision of whether they want to get on the bus and come into Waikiki. But we're going to provide that service until it no longer is safe to do so, which is about 7 in the morning. So I'm going to go back again. So all offices, number one, all offices are closed tomorrow. City offices, satellite city halls, Kapolei Hall, Honolulu City Hall are all shut down. And Carolee, I don't know if you want to emphasize anything more, but come up and you can say a few words too.
The mayor has granted administrative leave to all employees who are not essential. First responders from the police, fire, emergency management, emergency services, and support staff shall report to work. Emergency coordinators and alternate emergency coordinators of the departments shall report to work. Disaster response workers who have been pre-designated shall report to work. Thank you.
On the disaster declaration, I've just given you a general summary of the powers that we have, but Donna Leong, our Corporation Counsel, would like to expand a little bit on what I just said. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. What the mayor's proclamation does is to give them the flexibility to use resources, both in terms of personnel as well as services and property, in order to meet all of the emergency management functions that he has to perform in this disaster. That's basically what those powers do for him. Mayor.
Thank you. And finally, on bus service, I'm going to ask Mike Formby to come up and talk, and then also George Seghetti, the Hawaii Visitors Bureau, and Mike McCartney of the Tourism Authority. They are true partners. We need to take care of our guests. And so, Mike, if you could expand on what I said previously.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And I hope everybody got a copy of the news release that we gave out, which identifies the routes. And as the mayor said, the service will start at about 4:30. It depends on the community. So it'll be the normal route that would start in that community around 4:30, and then they'll conclude in Waikiki. Typically, not all these routes would go to Waikiki. So some of the routes would stop downtown, but they will go to Waikiki on Friday morning. And we're hoping that they'll terminate in Waikiki between 7 and 7:30. It's not a two-way trip, so people will not be taken out of Waikiki because the buses are going back to the bus barns. It's really to work with the community, with the tourists, with Mike McCartney and George, to make sure that we can provide workforce to our tourists. So we want everybody to be safe. Don't go out to catch the buses if the conditions are unsafe. You have to exercise your own judgment. The bus drivers have been told that they will not operate in areas that are unsafe. They will not put their lives or the lives of their passengers at risk. But I encourage you to look at the routes that are on here. There's 28 total routes. It's all over the island, which means if you're anywhere on this island and you have access to an express route and you need to get to Waikiki to work, you can on Friday morning. And then you'll stay there until we resume service. And we're basically working with the management staff at OTS, and I want to tell you they've been really good about working with us. They've been very responsive, Roger Morton and his team. We appreciate their hard work. They're going to be standing up their drivers on Friday afternoon, and then when the mayor declares that the streets are safe and clear, they'll be called out to take the buses and restore service. So we don't know whether that's going to be at 2, 3, 4, or 5, but it definitely will be 2 or after. And at that time, then the workforce could come out of Waikiki and return home. So if you have any questions, please feel free to talk to me after or call the bus. Thank you.
Next, I'd like George Seghetti to say a few words, and then Mike McCartney.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association, we really want to thank the mayor and his team for reconsidering. We think this is a well thought out plan. It's a plan that will allow us to take care of the safety of our employees, thousands and thousands of employees, as well as 95,000 visitors in Waikiki. And again, I want to thank the mayor and his team for reinstating this express bus service and getting our workforce back into Waikiki tomorrow. Even at that limited time was really, really going to help. So thank you very much.
Mike?
Again, I just want to echo what George said. We want to thank the mayor. Waikiki is very important to all of us. So we are working very closely. We're going to open up our command center at the Hawaii Convention Center. We're in contact with each of the county emergency management centers, and we're in touch with Diamond Head. So we're going to coordinate. Our job is to make sure visitors get accurate information so that they can have a great experience here and be safe. So what we're doing is just making sure that everybody gets accurate and good information. And we thank the mayor for making sure that the workers can get there to take care of our guests. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Last but not least, I know people are going to ask, your viewers or readers are going to ask, so is our garbage going to get picked up? What about bulky item? We talked about that briefly, but we have Laurie Kahikina here to expand on that. Thank you, Laurie.
Well, thank you, Mayor. So with the closure of the city tomorrow, all trash will not be picked up as scheduled. So if you're on the 3-cart system, the manual or bulky, we will not be there to pick it up. The convenience centers, the transfer stations, H-Power, and the landfill will be closed. No one will be allowed access to those facilities. We're asking those that have scheduled pickup tomorrow to remove it from the sidewalk, bring it back onto your property, especially the bulky, because those can be projectiles with the high winds. Secure it on your site. And we ask those that are scheduled for tomorrow, hold it till the next pickup, which is next week. If you cannot, for some reason, you have too much trash collected, please, you can take it to the convenience centers once they reopen. As far as Saturday pickup, we will announce that later on tomorrow because it depends on what kind of, what the roads look like, if there's any flooding and major debris. So, with that, I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Laurie. Mike, do you have some?
One more thing I'd just like to emphasize in regards to visitors, we're asking people to check with the airlines first. The airport is not a holding area for people to congregate. So we want them to call their airlines. That's the best way they can get the best and accurate information. What the Hawaii Tourism Authority is doing with the Department of Transportation is we are getting flight cancellations as they are confirmed. We're getting that information to all the hotels and to all our partners out there, from our Japanese wholesalers to our Korean wholesalers, to make sure everybody gets that information. You can go to our website at hawaiitourismauthority.org and click on alerts, and that information will be there, but we're getting it out to all our partners statewide. As far as we know at this moment, and I can't speak for the airports, that the airports will still remain open. But again, we're emphasizing we don't want people on the roads trying to get to the airport. We want them to stay in place and follow the instructions at the hotel. The hotels have some of the best employees in the world. They're going to give you right instructions. They've been through this exercise many times. So we just want to emphasize that we want all our visitors to be safe and have a good experience. So thank you.
So to reemphasize, the 3 things we announced here this morning are, number 1, I've signed an emergency declaration for the city and county of Honolulu and anticipation of Iselle. Number 2, we have told our city and county workers not to come into work tomorrow unless you are a disaster response worker. Everyone else is to stay home. And number 3, we have modified our bus service. We're not going to be running our usual bus system from midnight tonight, but we're going to have our express buses in operation from 4:30 to 7 to 7:30, just going into Waikiki. With that, we're going to open it up to questions you may have with any of our
I want to ask you about the bus service.
Yes.
There's a couple of questions here. The express buses, Mike, they usually just stop at certain stops. Being that this is a special situation tomorrow morning, are the express buses going to make all the stops along the line? Because a lot of people don't know that the express just stops at certain places.
Yeah, so no, the express buses, from the point that they leave their community until they reach downtown or Waikiki, whichever they go, they'll make their normal stops. But if it was a bus that would have stopped downtown and then returned and is now going to go to Waikiki, on the way to Waikiki, it will make stops along the way. So we're not adding stops from origination to the normal stop point.
The other thing too is when you get people to Waikiki, worst case scenario, I don't know if George or Mike wants to address this, but you've got the workers in Waikiki. A worst case scenario, what happens if they cannot get back home when they're there?
Well, you know, this our hotels. I mean, they work really hard. This is not their first rodeo. They are well prepared for these types of things. Probably as well prepared as anywhere. And so I would, you know, we would have to make whatever accommodations we have to. I mean, we have. I hate to say this, but we have ballrooms. I mean, if we had to, I mean, we're going to put them up. We're safety first. Safety is paramount for our visitors and for our employees. So they will make whatever accommodations they need if that so happens that they get stuck there. So rest assured.
Percentage-wise, how many of the workers do you expect to show up? You know, with this bus service now that's available.
Well,
A
once
good
we
portion
get,
of them?
yeah, once we get the word out, I think it's going to be a big percentage. I mean, it's amazing how many of our employees take the bus, and that's why it's so critical that this was reinstated. I think it's going to be a big percentage, but it's safety first. And as the mayor said, I think discretion needs to be used, and I think all of our hoteliers will make sure that that's communicated. And but they're, you know, these are our ambassadors. They're well trained. I mean, when visitors come up, I don't care who it is in a hotel, they'll have answers for them where they need to go and how we can take care of them. So I think just from I think from a pride standpoint, they're all going to be there. So,
Mike, you have anything you want to emphasize? Okay.
Mike
Other
Corby, the press release refers to service to downtown Honolulu and Waikiki. I'm only hearing Waikiki now. Can you
Well,
clarify
no.
that?
So some of the express buses would normally terminate in downtown Honolulu, but they will go to Waikiki.
They will go to downtown as well and stop
Yes.
for downtown workers
Right.
as well.
So it'll be the normal route, but those that would have stopped downtown will now go to Waikiki as well. So if you take an express bus and you previously would have had to transfer to get to Waikiki, which some people did, they will now be able to get to Waikiki on that one express bus.
So Gordon, for example, right over here on King Street, right, major bus stop. A lot of people get out there and get on the Waikiki bus. It'll stop there, so if people want to get picked up, and then it goes straight into Waikiki. Okay, just be really, really clear on this. Any other questions?
Mayor,
Yes,
I'm sure
Anna.
people are still going to be driving around tomorrow in their own cars, even though we're telling them to stay at home. Should they worry about like feeding the meter and street parking? Some people have been asking us that.
Well, very good question. On this, I want to make it really clear. People should not be driving around tomorrow. During the height of this storm, everyone should be in their homes, taking care of each other, not on the streets. So my request is that please use real caution here and common sense. This is a serious event that we're talking about. We wouldn't be taking these extraordinary actions if we didn't think it was necessary. So people shouldn't be worried about, hey, can I feed the meter or not? I don't know if anyone wants to answer that. Mike, do you want to answer that question? As a revenue generating measure, I say yes, feed the meter. But I think people should be at home and not worried about,
Yeah, but they
doing
shouldn't be
these
worried
kind
about tickets and stuff when it's a big storm.
The police are going to be working really hard to protect people. And then I don't think they're going to be focusing on issuing tickets because someone has not fed the meter. But again, tomorrow is all about taking care of each other and not worrying about these kinds of things. Okay?
Mayor,
Yes.
should people who live or work in shoreline areas be anticipating any possible evacuation needed of people in harm's way there?
Well, under the disaster proclamation, I have the ability to issue evacuation notices for low-lying areas. And to answer your question, yes, that may be a possibility. We're going to see how the storm is once it passes the Big Island. Will Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa affect it in some way if it still remains strong? And right now we look at it being potentially a fairly strong storm when it gets to Oahu. We'll make that determination in real time. And of course, we'll be working with our partners, both the police department and the fire department, to make sure that people are safe. And we will use, that's why we're signing the proclamation today.
Mayor, are you going to ramp up the first responders at all?
Well, the first responders are ramped up. They have their own emergency operation centers, both police and fire. They're here today with us, and of course, they're coordinated with our emergency operations center. They're taking it extremely serious, and they're ready to respond as necessary. But perhaps, Chief, would you like to add to that? Chief of Fire, Manny Nevis.
Morning, Manny Nevis, Fire Chief. Yes, we've been preparing for the last week or so when we got the notice that the storm was on its way. So we have our operating teams already in place in the last several days. We have incident management teams that's already preparing and putting in extra resources, fire trucks, personnel, food, just consumables for our fire station. So internally trying to make sure that everything is ready to go, but we're ready for whatever comes our way once the storm hits land.
I would like to emphasize that, our first responders do an extraordinary job every day on this island, and they're going to be working really hard tomorrow. And I ask our public, please use precaution again. Every time we have one of these events, we see people going into the water, and so either fire or lifeguards are going to be faced with rescuing people that really have no business being near the shore. That's why we're shutting down our parks as of 4 o'clock this afternoon. So please, be careful for your own lives, but don't jeopardize these other folks' lives by doing something that's foolish. Stay home, stay off the roads, take care of each other.
Mayor, we got a question about construction cranes. There's so many of those construction cranes around Oahu right now with the building boom. Is anything being done to make sure those are secured or those don't become very dangerous in light of the high winds that we are expecting?
Generally speaking, I know that a lot of the private contractors are securing all of their equipment, their building materials. I don't know, Scott, if you want to add any. I saw Scott Ishikawa here from HART. Where did he go, Scott?
Right
Do you
back
want to?
there.
I don't know if you want to talk about HART, but for example, a rail project, one of the largest construction projects in the history of this place. They're spending the entire day today securing equipment, securing anything that's high in the air, and they're not going to be working tomorrow. So again, just like those who are driving around wanting to pay a parking meter, we have a major project where they're not going to be working. But Scott, do you want to add to it? And the same, I understand the other projects around town, they are securing today all their equipment, their construction cranes, to make sure it's safe tomorrow. But Scott, why don't you add? Scott Ishikawa is with HART.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So basically, all rail construction will be canceled as of tonight through the weekend. We want to make sure that all the families, or all the folks, get home to the families in a timely manner. So we are on the road right now. We are securing and fastening down all the construction equipment or taking it back to our base yards. And we'll be off the road before afternoon rush hour so everybody can get home in a timely manner.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Thank you. Good question, though. Thanks, Gilkey. Other questions? If not, we'll stick around for individual questions. We also have other directors here. Sherry Ishikawa is here from Kajiwara, excuse me. Sherry, I got too mixed up again. From customer service, we got Art Chalacombe with Department of Planning and Permitting, and we got Gerald Saito from Environmental Services.
Director Kahikina.
Okay.
Director Kahikina. Lori.
Sorry, come on up.
Question for you.
Yes.
what should householders do with their bins?
Their carts should be brought back onto their property and secured as best as possible.
And put indoors if possible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for getting the information out.